Hey guys, it's me Seren back with another video. We're on day 25 of Hidden Figures, and today's hidden figure is Freda DeKnight, born 1909 and died in 1963, who was the first food editor of Ebony magazine and the author of a book called A Date with a Dish, a cookbook of American Negro recipes, which is considered to be the first major cookbook written by an African American specifically for an African American audience. So she's kind of credited with kind of opening up the culinary field to African Americans and making that something that was kind of more accessible for us. So I was looking through the Hidden Figures tag, I think on like Tumblr or like on social media, and I came across this article that of course there will be a link to in the description box called Freda DeKnight, a hidden figure and titan of African American cuisine. And it was just like a really interesting read about this woman that I had never heard of. Born in 1909, DeKnight spent much of her 54 years collecting, protecting, and celebrating African American culture and traditions in the years after World War II up to the Civil Rights Movement. Yet her name has been all but forgotten. As the first food editor for Ebony magazine, DeKnight wrote a photo-driven monthly column that offered her home economist tips, as well as regional recipes from the Negro community, which is in quotes, of home cooks, professional chefs, caterers, restaurateurs, and celebrities. Instead of the traditional recipe format, directions appeared as photo captions, and this was one of the many ways in which DeKnight presented a more nuanced and often glamorous image of African American cooking and culture, not just to African American readers, but to the broader world. Freda DeKnight was one of the first who brought international attention to African American food. She was a trailblazer. And her work with Ebony brought African American dishes to a larger world. In 1948, DeKnight published her only cookbook, A Date with a Dish, a cookbook of American Negro recipes, which is considered, again, the first major cookbook written by an African American for an African American audience. It showcased a wide variety of recipes from Negro households, from tamale pie to filet mignon, from shortening bread to key lime pie. By documenting the breadth and depth of African American culinary know-how, DeKnight challenged the stereotypes of what Black cooking could be. Published 7 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, and 16 years before the Civil Rights Act of 1964, A Date with a Dish was a powerful affirmation of Black culture. DeKnight's culinary ambitions were rooted in her upbringing. She was born in Kansas a generation after a great wave of African Americans known as the Exodusters left the South post-Civil War and migrated into Kansas. Her father, a Topeka-based Pullman steward, died when she was 2, and her mother, a traveling nurse, moved DeKnight and her sister to Mitchell, South Dakota to live with family. DeKnight grew up in the farm home of Paul and Mamie Scott, a couple who ran a successful catering company in town. DeKnight later credited the Scotts with setting her down her future career path. The Scotts were the inspiration for my early cooking aspirations, which gave me every opportunity to absorb all of their fine recipes and rudiments of cooking, preparing food, and catering. DeKnight wrote in the Collector's Corner, a section of the cookbook that showcased recipes curated from Negroes all over the country, from caterers in Philadelphia to home cooks in Arkansas and celebrity cooks in California. Each recipe was accompanied by a short biography of the cook. And even now, there's like still a lot of like not enough representation and like the big like cooking. Like whenever I'm watching a show on the Cooking Network and I see a Black person, I'm like, oh, a Black person. Like there's still not enough like Black people that are like shown in the cooking world, even though so much of what is like popping right now has been influenced by our culture, like this whole like Southern cooking like movement, like so much Southern food is actually like slave food, is like actually made with these like standard crops that like came from Africa that aren't even like indigenous to North America, like fucking like yams and sweet potatoes. Like a lot of this, all this stuff that's having collard greens and like kale, you know, all this stuff that's kind of being rebranded as having this moment. So much of it comes from African American culture, yet you still do not see anywhere near enough Black people in the kitchens or being represented. So it's amazing that she was the editor of Ebony and the food editor, and she like got this cookbook out, and she's been forgotten over time. She's a hidden figure, right? DeKnight didn't limit her celebration of African American culture to the culinary world. She rose to the position of home service director at Johnson Publishing, home of Ebony, and in 1957 she staged the first Ebony Fashion Fair. Oh, she staged the Ebony Fashion Fair, wow! Stirring Negro culture into international haute couture. She appeared frequently on television, demonstrating recipes like violet petal cake, and scouted the country for models of ebony. Among her discoveries, a young Diane Carroll, who's known to be one of the first black supermodels. In 1960, she underwent surgery for cancer, and she died in January 1963 at age 54. Freda DeKnight. Wow. A hidden figure, seriously. She received a degree in home economics from South Dakota Wesleyan College. After college, Freda DeKnight traveled to New York, where she attended classes at Columbia University and New York University. She also worked teaching sewing and as a guidance counselor to vocational training schools. Oh, wow. In 1964, DeKnight joined the staff of Ebony magazine as a food columnist and worked her way up to editor. DeKnight published her cookbook, A Date with the Dish, a cookbook of American Negro recipes, in 1948. The book was filled with not only recipes, but also interviews with celebrities, including Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington, entertaining anecdotes, and household hints. In her book, she strove to overturn stereotypes about African American and Southern cooking, writing in the preface of the book, "It is a fallacy long disproved that Negro cooks, chefs, caterers, and housewives can adapt themselves only to the standard Southern dishes." Freda DeKnight, a hidden figure. There will be tons of links in the description box, including a link to her book, her cookbook, if you guys want to check it out. So we're almost done. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.